Today is March the 18th. What does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? Let's find out together as we study some of the stories from the middle of Jesus' ministry. Today I'd like you to read Matthew chapter 17 from verse 1 to 23. Mark chapter 9 from verse 2 to 32. And Luke chapter 9, 28 to 45. There are 4 paragraphs in these sections. We see the story of what we have come to know as the transfiguration of Jesus. After that, in Matthew, Jesus comments on why Elijah was present in the transfiguration. Then we have the story of a boy who suffered from a demon, and finally, a second prediction of the death of Jesus. Now, looking at Matthew chapter 17, we'll follow this story just a little bit. It was after the proclamation of Peter that he believed that Jesus was the Messiah, that Jesus takes the 3 that he commonly takes to be with him, Peter, James, and John. And he went with them alone to a mountain where his body was transformed before them. He began to shine. He began to show some of the divinity that was his, that he had turned over to God. They are amazed. In the book of Matthew, Peter says, when he sees Jesus talking to 2 others who simply appear and begin to talking to him, he listens to them and realizes that Moses and Elijah have been raised from the dead and are now talking to Jesus. The book of Luke, chapter 9, verse 31, tells us that they were talking about his coming crucifixion, about his coming exodus from this earth. It's interesting that Moses would use that term, isn't it? Well, Peter, James, and John say, Lord, let us build 3 tents, 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah. We can set up shop here and then bring people up here to talk to you, and they'll realize that you're the Messiah. At that, a cloud overpowers them. A cloud descends, surrounds them completely. They hear a voice, the voice of God, saying, "This is my son. Listen to him." It's as if he were saying, don't worry about Moses and Elijah. Moses and Elijah are here to just clarify some of the doubts they had about what Jesus has come to do. The cloud lifts, and only Jesus is there. The disciples have received the instruction. Just listen to him. They have questions about Elijah. They ask, why is it that the teachers of law say that Elijah must come before the Messiah comes? Jesus says he came. It's John the Baptist. They go down the mountain and they have an exchange. The other 9 disciples have been dealing with a young boy who's demonized. The demon possessing the boy tries to kill him. He jumps into water. He jumps into fire. I could imagine he's heavily scarred from the times that he has jumped into the fire. They've been trying to cast the demon out, and they can't. Jesus, with the word, casts the demon out. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Now, I mentioned yesterday that the first half of the books, the synoptic gospels, deal with who Jesus is. When they are convinced that he's the Messiah, especially in Matthew and Mark, Jesus says, good, now I can go to the next half of my ministry. And that is learning what it means to be my disciple. So the second half of Jesus' ministry, which is much shorter than the first half, only about 5 chapters long, and then we get into the Passion. But in the second half of Jesus' ministry, Jesus talks about what it means to follow me. Now, the first place that he talks about that in the book of Matthew is after Jesus predicts his death. And Jesus says, if you want to be my follower, turn from your selfish ways, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. The disciples begin to understand that this is going to be tough. They'll be carrying their own cross as they follow Jesus. But the first thing that Jesus wants to teach them, we find in the book of Mark. At the end of the story of freeing this young boy from a demon, the disciples come to Jesus and say, why couldn't we do it? Jesus said, this kind only comes out by prayer. What does that mean? Is it that the disciples didn't pray? Oh, I think they prayed. It's Jesus saying, fellows, the issue here is not your technique. It's not what you said or what you did or didn't do, what you might not have said right, whether there's an incantation that you should use. That's not the issue. The issue is connection with God. First and foremost, to be a disciple is to be men and women of prayer, to be connected to God closely, to be going to him constantly in prayer. So what about you? Are you a man or woman of prayer? We need to be. If we want to truly be a disciple of the Lord Jesus, we must learn to pray. As you finish up this week with our devotionals, make sure you spend time in prayer. Please like, follow, and subscribe to these devotionals on whatever platform you used to listen to it. Email your questions to us at questions@becomehope.com. Enjoy this weekend in your local church.